when we look at theotés 23:20, the word translated as deity in most Bibles, and we drop down to the Thayer's Greek lexicon that you can see on my screen right here. I'm sorry, let me drop down a little bit further. No, I want to stay here. Yeah, let's look at this right here. Notice in this Bible Hub tool that I've got pulled up, we're going to be using a lot of Greek tonight. We can see here that they say that theótēs has a synonym, which is theotés. So theotés, deity, theotés, divinity. And here's what they say. As far as synonyms are concerned, theotés and theotés are synonyms. Theotés, deity, differs from theotés, divinity, as essence differs from quality or attribute. So divinity is, in the Greek, according to this Thayer's Greek lexicon, divinity, which is theotés, this word, is a quality or attribute. By comparison, the synonym theotés, which is translated deity, is essence. So in English, we would interact with these words this way. One of these words is describing what something is, and the other word describes the qualities or attributes that something possesses, but perhaps maybe not as essential to the nature or essence or makeup of that thing. Make sense? So let's look at this. Paul definitely uses the word theótēs right here, right? Which again, as I mentioned, the form of it is theotétos in the Greek, this particular noun, to describe Jesus being deity as opposed to just mere divinity. When we look at this passage, however, in different versions, let me see, do I have it pulled up? No, I don't want to pull up in many versions. What I said is that this verse is in chapter 2, verse 9, is actually a carryover from something he already mentioned earlier. And what he mentioned earlier was in Colossians 1:19. And in Colossians 1:19, let me pull it up. In Colossians 1:19, he says, speaking of Yeshua, for in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. Now, he doesn't use the word theotés or theotés or any of those words, but the terminology is very similar in both the English and in the Greek. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. I already told you that the word God there doesn't show up in the Greek. It just simply says, literally in the Greek, for in him all the fullness it pleased him for all the fullness to dwell. Something to that effect. The word God is supplied by translation. But if you look at verse 9 of the next chapter, for in him the whole fullness of deity dwells. A lot of the terminology is captured again. For in him all the fullness, right? We've got the Greek word plήρωμα and things like that. And so what I mentioned last week that we're going to look at this week now in the last 5 minutes is that in Colossians 1:19, it's actually the ending of this miniature hymn that started in verse 15. And so Paul brings in this hymn. I don't know if he composed the hymn. There's evidence to suggest perhaps maybe he brought the hymn in from another writer or from another source. Some of the grammar doesn't seem to match Paul's grammar and things like that. But nevertheless, let's just say Paul wrote it. It is Paul's letter, right? Paul's letter to the Colossians. And Paul's talking about Yeshua.